Welcome back, class. This is going to be a lesson on Amate bark painting, which is a Mexican folk art. Now, I did say the word bark, and so some people might think, hey, you can't be taking bark off trees, which you're right, you can't. So let's talk about that for a second. And then amate is the word that we're using, amate bark painting. And this idea originated in Mexico. So let me just go ahead and show you. I actually have 3 short videos to show you, but they're all about the idea of using bark as a renewable resource in artwork. Let's take a look. The first one actually comes from a town in Mexico, and this is how they make a mate bark paper. It's awesome. This is home of the Amate paper. The bark from the huanote tree. So they boil the bark after it's been harvested from the tree in a sustainable way. That woman is not moving that real fast in real life. It's kind of funny. After the bark is cooled, they take it out of the cold water. Some pieces are bleached to be white because some Amate paintings are white. And others are dyed different colors. But what's really hard is the pieces are separated into fine strips. Amazing. Sometimes dyes are added to it. And then those fine strips that woman was peeling apart are actually pounded with a rock on a surface to make the paper. The paper is an artwork in itself. It's amazing. They're also smooth, so you can do painting on it. I love that video. It's just amazing what the artists do. Let's take a look at how another culture would be using bark as well. So Native Americans would go ahead and they learned how to peel, and the tradition was passed down from generation to generation, to peel birch bark off of a tree to harvest it in for canoes and other things in a way that made sure that it did not hurt the tree. At a certain time of year, bark can be cut and then peeled off and harvested. And then over time, the birch will survive, but the bark area will darken. So it shows harvesting of those trees, and then actually sometimes making of the canoe, wetting it down and folding it and molding it into the way that is needed. Another culture that does that, which I think is so awesome, are the Finnish. So I've seen this artwork like this made by Native Americans and by Finnish people. We're talking over in Europe, far across the sea, or the ocean, excuse me, over in America. These people have been doing it for generations after generations after generations for hundreds and thousands of years. So this actually is a knife handle and then a shield made out of birch bark that's been harvested, just similar to what the Native Americans were doing. And I think the awesome part of this is that hundreds and thousands of years ago, both of these cultures were doing it and they never even realized it. It's both of our areas, northern parts of the United States, and then, of course, in Finland, they were both had birch trees that were accessible to them. And so they both did this without even knowing about it. And now, because we're kind of more of a global society, we can share these ideas through the internet, which is something that's awesome, compared to thinking about how they would have to travel years and hundreds of years ago. Okay, so getting back to using a sustainable resource such as birch bark, we have some birch bark paintings. These are incredibly detailed. And if you wanted to go into that kind of detail, it's totally acceptable. They often tell a story. They're usually happy stories of villages, and they're stylized paintings. So there's traditions that are passed down from generation to generation, and the characters don't have to look realistic. They can be whatever you want them to be. And it shows multiple scenes, like people gathering for a dance. There's a church over here. There's animals and mountains in the background. And often they have a border. So you decide how you want to make yours. And what you're going to be doing for your piece is you decide whether you want to do animals or people or scenes. And then I want you to do repetition. So have repetition incorporated into your artwork. So instead of just painting the bird blue and the wing purple, this artist layers and layers and layers designs over the top to create more and more designs. And of course, what you notice first is the bird, because it's biggest, it's most decorated, it uses the most colors, and it's the most interesting thing to look at. But all the other pieces play together to make the whole painting look beautiful and interesting. So you want to think about what your emphasis piece needs to be. So again, in this one, it's the bird, and then they have a nice flower that happens here that kind of grows up and complements the bird. And then the repetition in the background are all these happy daisies and other additions. So to this year, I'd like you to be using some hot spots. So instead of having your main idea be right in the center of your page, I'd like you to put some of those fun ideas right on your hot spots. And your hot spots are here, 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 and here. You have 4 hot spots in an artwork. So you don't want to use all of the hot spots. There's this artist used this hot spot and this hot spot mostly. And then these two are kind of left alone, but there are some things close to the hot spot. The big idea is, though, not to put things right in the middle of your artwork. So what are you going to be making? You can make almost anything you want to. I just want you to tell a story. It can be stylized or it can look realistic. It's up for you to decide. You must have an emphasis or a center of focus that's not in the center of the artwork. And you must also use rhythm and pattern in the artwork. And I would prefer that you use a border. You also must have contrast. So contrast would be opposites. So we have the brown paper against the white. Those are opposite, right? We have a solid line and dotted lines. Again, opposite. The paper that you're using is going to be brown. So hopefully if you leave it brown, you'll have the fluorescent colors and the fluorescent paints to work on top of it. And you can use pattern and repetition any way you want to. These are just some designs that have been used in the past. I love these. These people are using hot spots. This one is more in the center, but you've got a big diagonal going across. And this one was almost done, but I wanted to show you what it looked like after you got done drawing and painting and before we used a Sharpie on it. Awesome patterning in this one. I love the way they pattern on the flower and on the bird to draw, and on this flower and on these leaves. It really draws your attention around the artwork. So think about your fun painting, your bright fluorescent painting on your brown piece of pretend Amate paper. Thanks for watching, friends. Bye.